having said that, let me just ask. You know, in your briefing materials, it says here, among your duties and responsibilities, improve the communication portal to serve as a link between the President and the Filipinos. That's correct. Be in sync with how the Filipinos want to communicate and be communicated with. And then, under the PIA, technical assistance to other government agencies for following programs, projects, social development, economy, trade, industry, energy and environment, peace and order, and lastly, culture and arts. So culture and arts are included in the mandate of the PIA. I also note that you're supposed to maintain a Facebook account as well as other social networking accounts for the President. And I reviewed your Facebook account, Mr. Secretary, under the name Benigno Noynoy Aquino, the 15th President of the Philippines, with 6,709 likes. How long has this account been in existence?
Mr. Chairman, Your Honors, the website of the President.
I'm talking of the Facebook.
Yes, the Facebook feature is included in the website, which is president.gov.ph. The Facebook account has more than 2 million followers, Mr. Chairman and Your Honors.
No, this one was 6,709 likes.
It probably refers to a particular post, Your Honor. I think that is the term. You indicate whether you like a certain post. But if you are asking for the quantum of followers, the number that we have, Your Honors, is more than 2 million. Because 2 million fans.
It pertains to the like with regard to the account. You know, you press like. And that's how you indicate whether you like the account. Are you familiar with this, Secretary?
I believe I'm reasonably familiar, Your Honor.
So that's what I'm talking about. You know, Christopher Lau has 66,190 likes right now, and he has been in the national consciousness only for a few days. In the case of the President's Facebook account, it's only 10% of Christopher Lau's.
Mr. Chairman, Your Honors, with all due respect, may I point out again that the quantum of fans, the number of fans in the President's Facebook account is more than 2 million. And what you are referring to are the number of likes for a specific post which may be pertaining to a particular issue or event. This is something that we...
Services, I don't think it should be interpreted that way. But anyway, we don't want to belabor this. I noticed, for example, with respect to the President's MILF initiative, which I consider very laudable, it only has 21 people liking and only 5 comments for such a gargantuan initiative.
Mr. Chairman, Your Honors.
Communication failure here, Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Chairman, Your Honors, we are prepared to furnish you our periodic updates.
I'm sorry, but I'm just reading the...
Yeah, that is why, Mr. Chairman, since you are reading it and I'm not reading it, I think we don't have a common frame of reference, and I believe that the sense of where you are going is to find out how much or what portion of our citizenry is made aware of important government programs. And my response, Your Honor, is that we are monitoring this regularly. Every week there are issues relating to MILF or ARMM, for example, and we are able to provide you with more comprehensive information including current and past, on how our people have given their feedback on these specific matters, Mr. Chairman and Your Honor.
Thank you. What I'm saying, Mr. Secretary, is that there may be another way of making people more aware, because there are about 20 million Facebook members in the Philippines. And if a very big, laudable initiative posted in the Facebook account of the President would have only 16 likes and 3 responses, there may be a need for a stronger communication. This should be interpreted as a suggestion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Your Honors. We would like to work with you in this aspect, and may I also point out that there is another government website which is Official Gazette, and this contains all the official issuances of the President, including executive orders, including speeches, and they also have a Facebook and a Twitter account. Let me also point out that the entire government of the Republic would also have similar accounts. And we are monitoring this through the DevComNet, which is the Development Communication Network. We are working closely with all the public information offices of the Executive Department and national government agencies to ensure that we are able to cover more ground, especially the social network. And we fully agree with you, Your Honor, that this is a very vital channel that we should use more effectively.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Speaking of the Official Gazette, that was my source on the technical report to the SONA of the President when I debated the minority leader on this contra-SONA. I cited that the contra-SONA was very defective in many ways because it failed to get the right information, because the contra-SONA of the minority leader made a lot of claims on the inadequacies and absences on certain issues which were clearly belied when I read the relevant provisions of the Official Gazette with respect to the technical report on the SONA. I would like to thank you on that. Now, Mr. Secretary, in your mandate, you said that you're supposed to be close to the grassroots to know the people's sentiments and many issues. One raging issue right now, I've been monitoring some AM radios this morning on the way to Congress. I read the editorial of the Enquirer yesterday, and I think we are all aware that one raging issue is the cultural center of the Philippines. May we know if your office has any recommendation on this with respect to feeling the pulse of the people with respect to a raging issue?
Mr. Chairman and Your Honors, we fully agree with you that there is a need to feel the public pulse. With respect to the issue you have just cited, I believe that the Deputy Presidential Spokesperson, Undersecretary Balte, has stated that for the present we are looking to the CCP Management to directly address this concern while we continue to monitor relevant developments, Your Honor.
Here in the House, Mr. Secretary, there were 2 speeches yesterday, and I hear and I can feel the pulse of many of my colleagues here. And I'd like to convey to you that as far as some of our colleagues, I cannot speak for everybody, but speaking for myself and some of my colleagues, the policy is for the CCP management to be reorganized fully. We don't think that the CCP management should stay 1 hour longer because of what they did. Because they have exposed this government to a lot of attacks from people who are very supportive of the government.
Mr. Mr. Chairman, Your Honors, we will convey your sentiment to the Office of the President.
Thank you very much. I think that is something that's very clear. You know, I was in a Twitter debate with a supporter of the so-called work of art of Medio Cruz. And I was shocked at some of the reasons why they decided to use this work of art as a way of expressing their opinion. You know, some opinion are, if I may, they seem to resent the fact that, like when I asked, why don't you try to intercalate the face of your mother in this work of art instead of the face of Jesus Christ, I got answers like this: there are no estampitas, calendars, statues of my mother sending out rays of light from her heart, saving the world from sin. My mother is not claimed by 2 billion human beings to have resurrected from the dead and then ascended into heaven. My mother's semi-nude body, tortured and pierced and nailed to a wooden cross of capital punishment, is not worn as jewelry. Now, Mr. Secretary, I consider this highly offensive, and this seems to be the sentiment of people who are supportive of this so-called work of art, and I would not want to surmise whether the CCP management share the same shocking sentiment. I'm not talking of my religion. I think if it were addressed to any other religion, I would be behaving almost the same way. I think there is no government entity should be used as a medium to attack creed, race, or nationality, or any form of bigotry, Mr. Secretary.
I personally agree with your sentiments, Your Honor, and as I've stated earlier, I will convey these sentiments through official channels as well.
By the way, Mr. Secretary, who is the one directly supervising the CCP in the government hierarchy?
Your Honor, I believe that there is a National Commission on Culture and Arts, and these are also under the general supervision of the Office of the President, Your Honor.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Chairman, maraming po salamat. And thank you so much. I would like to congratulate you also because you have the way of disciplining your voice. You sound like one of this Department of State spokesmen whose voice doesn't vary at all. It is the same tone whether you're happy, you're angry, or you're upset. And one thing I noticed also with respect to your panel, Mr. Secretary, it seems that as you go from left to right, the hair turns gray and grayest towards your left. Is that an arrangement that was intentional or just accidental? There seems to be a preponderance of gray matter to your left and black matter to your right.
Thank you for your compliments and good wishes, Your Honor. I believe the seating arrangement is purely random.
Well, that is statistically improbable.
Okay, we now recognize Congressman Ejercito.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Secretary and the rest of the PCOO. I'd just like to ask the Secretary, after 1 year of being in office, do you think that the communications group is not anymore the miscommunications group it used to be? Their honest opinion.
Mr. Chairman and Your Honors, all I can say is that over the past year, we have done our best. Whether we have been effective or not, I believe it is best for the customers of our service, the Filipino people represented by your representations here, to tell us so, because it would be self-serving for us to make our own assessment, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary, considering that the President still maintains quite a high popularity at this point, do we really need to have so many media consultants, secretaries, undersecretaries, and ASEC with your office? this presentation want to know how many secretaries, ASECs, and USECs you presently have.
Mr. Chairman, Your Honors, the number of secretaries is 3. There is the presidential spokesperson, Edwin Lacerda, the head of the Presidential Communications Development Strategic Planning Office, Secretary Ramon Ricky Carandang, and yours truly. In the previous administration, Your Honor, there were also 3. There was a press secretary, a presidential spokesperson with the rank of secretary, and another supervising secretary for the government media organizations. And that position was held by Conrado Lincaupo. So the same number of secretaries, this can be checked further, but we have kept the number of undersecretaries, assistant secretaries within the bounds of the plantilla that we inherited from the previous administration, Your Honors.
So, Mr. Secretary, there's no additional USEC or ASECs when you took over?
As far as my office is concerned, we have adhered to the same plantilla that was prepared, was already prepared by the previous administration when we came into office, Your Honor.
Just like, is ASEC, do you have an ASEC named Ray Murphy? Is he present?
He is with the President, Your Honor, in Batangas. He usually accompanies the President in out-of-town trips, Your Honor.
So that's his responsibility.
Your Honor, Mr. Chairman, his office is known as the Media Access and Relations Division, Your Honor.
So it's not just to make the President laugh every time they're out of town, because I heard he's the President's club. Is this true?
He is an Assistant Secretary, and his official duty, Your Honors, is to see to it that the members of the press are able to cover presidential events professionally and to have adequate facilities, and this also goes for foreign trips of the President, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Secretary. Just like a simple request, I'd like to, if it's possible, you bring him to me, because I'd just like to clear some matters with him. This is not political, I think it's personal.
Mr. Chairman, Your Honors, I will convey your request and ensure that his issue as soon as possible, Your Honor.
Yes, because just before the budget, I hope that he will, I'd just like to clear some things with ASEC Murphy. And also, I'm surprised again to see my friend here, my favorite counterpart in the opposition in 2007. Doesn't the Aquino administration have enough talent to cover the different heads of agency? Why is Mr. Albano still present?
Take note of your observation.
Because just for your information, during 2007, when the President was my candidate, I was the deputy campaign manager. We had an 10-1 victory. E ngayon, mukhang ma-unseat pa yung isang senador, so it will be 11-0 na. So, you might want to consider, because my friend wasn't able to make his candidate win during that time. So, ano na yung score namin? 1-11. 0-11 na. Anyway, just kidding aside, anyway, just good to see my friend here. Anyway, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary, good to hear that the Presidential Communications Office is now working better. Hindi na tayo miscommunications group as what has been projected. So, I hope you keep up the good work, and I hope that you will accede to my simple request. Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Your Honor. Please be assured that we will comply with your request.
We now recognize Congressman C.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Magandang umaga po, Secretary Coloma and the rest of the PCOO office. Just a quick question. Is Secretary Carandang and Quezon part of the PCOO?
No, Mr. Chairman and Your Honors. They belong to the Presidential Communications Development and Strategic Planning Office, which is a separate and distinct unit from our office, Your Honor.
May we know what the difference is between the PCOO and they have a longer name.
Mr. Chairman and Honors, both offices were created under Executive Order Number 4 issued by President Aquino exactly a year ago. The title of that Executive Order is as follows: renaming the Office of the Press Secretary as the Presidential Communications Operations Office and creating the Presidential Development and Strategic Planning Office. So yung pong tanggapan namin, hinalinhan po namin yung dating tanggapan ng kalihim ng pamahayag or Office of the Press Secretary. But since, as I pointed out earlier, there was another supervising secretary for government media organizations at that time, Secretary Lim Caupo. Yung pong pinapangasiwaan ni Secretary Lim Caupo at yung nasa ilalim ng Office of the Press Secretary, pinagsama na po yun. At iyon ang bumubuo ng Presidential Communications Operations Office with all of the organizations represented in today's hearing, Your Honors. Yung pong Presidential Development and Strategic Planning Office, ang under po doon ay yung Speechwriters Group. They also have the Correspondence Office. Yan po ang sumusulat ng mga messages of the President. Kung meron pong organisasyon o samahan na magdiriwang ng kanilang anibersaryo o nang maglulunsad ng isang proyekto at kailangan nila ng message from the President, that is the office that makes the message. Sila din po ang nangangasiwa doon sa official gazette ng ating Pangulo. So yun po yung mga units under the Presidential Development and Strategic Planning Office, Mr. Chairman and Your Honors.
Just another question. Yung strategic office, they use Apple MacBooks for their work, laptops. May I know if the PCOO also uses Apple Macs for your writing tasks?
Yung pong tungkol sa uri ng computer na ginagamit nila, yun po ay nabalitaan po namin noong pong tinalakay yung bagay na yon sa media. Yung po sa amin, ako po ay gumagamit ng sarili kong laptop na noong pang 2008 nabili. It's my personal, hindi po kami nag-procure in like manner, Your Honor.
But that's commendable because medyo iba pala yung taste ng kabilang opisina. Anyway, that's just an aside. No? I would like to focus my question on the position of the executive on the Freedom of Information Bill. I understand last January we had one of the hearings here in the House, and you were the one who was signatory, I think, to a position paper of the executive. May we know at this point what is the position of the executive with regards to the Freedom of Information Bill?
Mr. Chairman, Your Honors, the President spoke at the 25th anniversary of the Philippine Star last July 28. And in that speech, he pointed out that his administration supports the principles behind the Freedom of Information Bill. Sinabi lang po niya sa kanyang talumpati na ito ay mahalaga sa demokrasya natin at pinunto po ng ating Pangulo na hinahanap lang po ng ating administrasyon ay yung balanse sa pagitan sa balance in the exercise of the rights as well as the concomitant responsibilities. And that is the perspective that we are taking in drafting an administration version of the bill. My understanding is it's going through review. It's going to be presented to the President. As soon as the President approves the draft, then it will be endorsed to the legislature for proper action, Your Honors.
Let me rephrase the question. Does the President want Congress to pass the FOI bill?
That is my understanding from the way I heard him speak about it at the latest opportunity, Your Honor. I believe he wants that bill to be enacted, Your Honor.
Then why is he not asking Congress to do it? He had nakakadalawang sona na po ang presidente. No mention at all, no appeal at all for Congress to pass the bill. In fact, if he's really interested, mahigit isang taon na po tayo dito sa Kongreso, and we have not even received yung draft na sinasabi ninyo. I mean, 1 year to make your own draft or to make suggested amendments is too long for a measure that is supposed to be key to the transparency and accountability efforts of any administration. What is the explanation for that, Mr. Secretary?
Mr. Chairman and Your Honors, I believe the President has sufficiently articulated in public that he is in support of the principles underlying the FOI bill. His speech was only 3 days after the SONA. That was not the only item that was not taken up in the SONA because of time and other considerations. Let me just point out that the President simply wanted to get inputs from all of the departments in the executive branch, all national government agencies that will be affected by the provisions of such a measure, and that we are working in a manner that will lead to the eventual enactment of such legislation, Your Honor.
You know, Mr. Secretary, Congress cannot wait for the executive on this. In the last Congress, we practically passed this bill. Ratification na lang ang tinulang nun eh. And it was simply because I think we lacked 7 members in the plenary. Some of them were in the comfort rooms. Some of them were smoking outside. So para sa amin, we have waited for the executive for almost a year. Will the President mind if Congress proceeds to approve the substitute bill that we have now in committee? At siguro sa Senado na lang po kayo mag-abol ng inyong mga amendments because this has been taking too long. The chair of the Committee on Public Information is with us, Congressman Cardone. Hindi naman mo siguro pwedeng we will be held hostage by the executive. It's been a year, Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Chairman and Your Honors, we duly respect the legislature as a separate and co-equal branch. We certainly do not want to impede or delay your proceedings in any way. We will honor whatever the legislature will do in terms of its own processes. And I'm taking note of your observations and will duly convey this to the Office of the President, Your Honor.
So the President will not mind, and in fact will he be happy that Congress will proceed with this work, even if, of course, we have already taken note of some of your inputs. Ang wala pa yung official draft na sinasabi ninyo. So the President will not mind and we can proceed here in Congress. I just want the proper signal from Malacanang because some of the President's allies here naninimbang po eh. Hindi mo namin maitulak dahil inaantay daw yung go signal or yung proper signals from Malacanang. Are you in position to give that proper signal or that go signal?
Ang Pangulo lang naman po ang maaaring gumawa, no? Pero in direct answer to your question, my personal view, Your Honor, is I don't think he would mind.
Thank you for that. Now, last item na lang po itong National Printing Office. I raised this in the previous budget hearings, yung issue about its whether it is a public or a private corporation. I noticed in your budget, hindi nyo ko nabanggit yung the Apple production unit. May we know exactly what the status is of the Apple production unit? How do you treat this? Is this now a part of the PCOO? Does it adhere to the regular accounting auditing procedures? Or is this a private corporation? Or how do we treat the Apple production?
Mr. Chairman, Your Honors, the Government Corporations Governance Act that became law recently specifically mentions the Apple production unit in one of its provisions. and it is considered as a government entity with corporate character. That is included in the enumeration of such entities. So I think that should address the question as to whether it is a government entity or not. The answer is yes, and this is according to the Government Corporation Governance Act, Your Honor.
And what has been done to check on the previous abuses in the APO? Have there been any cases or filed? Are there any administrative sanctions? What changes have been done with respect to the APO to correct whatever anomalies there were in the previous administration?
Mr. Chairman, Your Honors, the President in a desire letter has already nominated and we have installed a totally new board of the APO production unit. I believe that some of the alleged anomalies and irregularities are comprehensively detailed by our friends in the media, those that are doing investigative reporting. What we have done is, upon replacement of the old board, we have put to a stop the excessive emoluments, perks that they used to enjoy, and we have put into place a regular, we have rationalized the compensation of the new board so that it is aligned with the spirit of the Government Corporations Governance Act. Then we are looking closely into the details of the transactions that they have gone into in order to pursue legal cases that may be pursued, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Could I just have a short report on the status so that I can also look into this?
Mr. Chairman, Your Honors, we will